Well, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Hafer. I'm a business development manager for HMB. Today's session will be on RightFax version 20.2, sponsored by OpenText, our partner. We'll be having Mike Stover speak today. He is a 20-year veteran as a senior product developer and product manager for OpenText, and we're honored to have him here today. A little bit of housekeeping. There in, I believe, the lower right-hand portion of your panels is a Q&A button if you want to submit anything. Unfortunately, the people that are attending outside of the speakers, your mics will be muted throughout. That's a weakness, frankly, of Teams. But any of your questions, please submit them through Q&A. We'll see that they get answered either now live. If there's not enough time, we will make sure that they get addressed in an FAQs. So without further ado, let's begin. As we discussed, this is a session on RightFax version 20.2. A couple of quick slides on who HMB. I'll introduce Mike Stover. He'll talk about 5 really key salient features that were a part of version 20.2. We'll discuss, at least at a high level, there were lots of questions early on what's going to be the impact and what has been the impact of the cloud in terms of RightFax and in terms of faxing in general. Mike will address that. I don't think we have a specific slide for it. And then we'll make sure that you know where to find any additional information on the version 20.2. HMB is a 20-year veteran of document capture, transformation, and process automation. Our list is a who's who of those in the capture space. Kodak, Fujitsu, UiPath in terms of robotic process automation is probably been one of our hottest selling and of most interest to our participants. We have customers right now that are running RightFax that are looking for ways to automate some of that workflow that's in. Some of it's capable within and under the wings of OpenText, and other they want to see maybe more creative ways, and RPA is a way of doing that. Our expertise, HMB has over 700 active RightFax contracts. We are a Platinum ASP, application service provider partner with RightFax and a distributor. And our engineers, and we maintain engineers on staff, average 20 years experience in RightFax. So coming back to the agenda, I'll introduce Mike Stover. Mike, are you still on mute?
Can you hear me, Jeffrey?
I can.
All right. So as Jeffrey mentioned, my name is Mike Stover, and I am the lead product manager for RightFax and RightFax Solutions within OpenText. For those of you who may or may not be aware, OpenText is the company that owns the RightFax technology and the RightFax product line. So again, I work for OpenText, and we partner with HMB, and we've been longtime partners together for a very long time. And they invited me to this webinar today to share with you essentially some of our product development strategies, which is what this first slide is, but then more specifically to detail some of the features and functionality that we've added in the RightFax 20.2 release. So I'll talk to you a little bit about kind of the history of RightFax and kind of what our versioning numbering means. You may be sitting there with a RightFax 9.4 server, for instance, and saying 20.2, how did I miss so many versions? So I'll try to give you a little update and a little history on the versioning, just so you understand kind of our release cadence and what we do release to release. So this slide, initially, I just would like to give everyone a little understanding of what OpenText considers our strategic investment themes for the RightFax product line. And I'll try to detail, as Jeffrey mentioned, some of the salient features that were included in each area here. So business process, this is all about the capability of, as Jeffrey mentioned, working through your business process workflows. Like the document comes in, it needs to move here, it needs to be touched by these people, and talk about a few features we've done in that area. User experience is just kind of the look and feel of the product, how intuitive everything is. Is it easy to use? Is it easy to pick up, or does it require, you know, a 45-page user manual, right? So we obviously would like that to be an easy to pick up product, and so we focus on features that make our product easy to use, intuitive, and simple to the mass of employees that may be using it. Industry and compliance. This is a very important strategic investment theme for us, just due to the types of industries that utilize faxing still today, right? And in most cases, we are talking about healthcare, right? Which is, you know, PII. It's you know, HIPAA protected information, and we want to make sure that we are keeping up with those industries, right? The other industry that we see a lot in fax usage is the financial services industry, right? And so PCI, credit card information, oftentimes these bits of data will get left around, or even are the main focus of a fax that's sent or received. And so we want to ensure that any investment any customer makes in a RightFax solution, we are taking into account all of those compliancy concerns that you may have based on your industry, and that's what that bucket is about. Reach, that's all for us. Reach we define as the integration capabilities of RightFax, essentially the capability for us to fax enable any user or any application or any back-end process within your organization. And so we want to ensure that as we build RightFax, there won't be a situation or a set of software that you come up against in your unique operating environment and it won't integrate with RightFax, right? We want to ensure that you'll have that reach and that capability by investing in a RightFax server. And finally, security, right? We want to make sure that every image that is processed through your server is secure and protected from prying eyes or malicious forces, whether that's inside or outside your business. You know, behind the firewall or outside of it. So that's just a high level overview of what we focused on, and we kind of focus on these areas, you know, release in and release out, so that we are continuing to provide value to our customers and of course to our partners like HMB. So next slide, please. And like I said, I'm gonna detail each one of these processes and the things that we've done, right? So I'm gonna focus right off the bat here with industry and compliance and business process. So I want to talk about three relatively new pieces of functionality that we've introduced with the 20.2 release. The first of which is a RightFax connector for Epic Health Systems, right? Epic is I would say, and I believe they would say, the largest EMR in the acute healthcare space in North America. And so having a purpose-built, certified, and co-marketed integration between the two companies, OpenText and Epic, was a definite goal for this release. I also want to talk to you about a brand new piece of functionality in RightFax called RightFax Workflows, and I'll detail that in the coming slides. And then we've made some improvements to our email gateway functionality, which is all about the capability to integrate a RightFax server with one or multiple email gateways or email servers in your environment. You know, regardless of the technology behind those email servers, right? So Exchange, IBM Notes or Domino, you know, or if you're using a cloud-based email server like Office 365 or even Google, we can integrate with those things. And I'll talk to you about some of the enhancements we've done around there. So next slide, please, and we'll talk a little bit about Epic and our connector with Epic. So number one, the integration between RightFax and Epic is now certified by Epic, and we are actually utilizing Epic's fax and print APIs native to the Epic system to build that integration, right? So we actually built to their API. So OpenText joined an Epic program called the App Orchard, and that is a essentially it's like the App Store for your iPhone, but it's unique to Epic, right? The App Orchard is where third-party developers can build apps, and then they can be found and downloaded by users of Epic. And so we're a member of that program, and we have all of OpenText fax solutions as part of the App Orchard. So today we'll talk about OpenText RightFax, and really the reason that we did this, healthcare users are major users of fax, and those organizations that have the Epic EHR, they required an Epic certified partner. Essentially that trust that the two organizations were willing to recognize each other and work together on any issues that may be encountered, right? Whether that's from a setup issue or a troubleshooting issue, or maybe even a fax delivery issue, right? You can rest easy knowing that both Epic and OpenText completely support this partnership, and we have really built quite a very nice integration between the two systems. So that Epic connector is going to provide that capability to do inbound and outbound fax directly into your Epic system and place those faxes where they need to be in that healthcare system. This integration, as a note, does require the RightFax integration module, which is an optional module that you can contact HMB, of course, about adding to your system. Once you have the integration module, the Epic connector is a part of it. As I mentioned briefly earlier, this integration does leverage the Epic Print Services API, and that is what's going to basically allow that fax button from within Epic, and then it will seamlessly transition whatever document, whether we're talking about lab reports or a prescription or a radiology study, that information will pass directly over to the RightFax server via this secure API, and the RightFax server can then deliver it as a fax, and then of course report back on any statuses or failures or successes that fax might encounter in its transmission. We believe, right, that the value proposition here of this new integration is it's going to ensure fax delivery at the same time easing any IT burdens that might have existed previously. There were integrations between RightFax and Epic previously, but it was all kind of happening from the RightFax side, and the Epic, it created sometimes an issue with the Epic representatives not knowing exactly how that integration works. And so now that we have this certified integration that Epic's been trained on, right, both organizations will be able to offer you support along the way. And ultimately, we've got a great package here that, as I said, includes getting that status of any sent faxes in addition to sending and receiving faxes just in general. Ultimately, we do believe that this will facilitate the workflows that you have going on in your healthcare system. So in other words, normally a fax comes into your RightFax server and then it has to move out to another system and then be ingested into Epic, right? This method will kind of seamlessly handle that process for you. And a great benefit is it's going to increase and maintain patient and provider service levels, right? With that around the clock reliability, with the support of both organizations. So again, we don't expect that anyone would have a problem, but if you were, both organizations are ready to support you in getting you back up and running in as little time as possible. But this is a really great new feature, and if you have Epic, this is something that you will definitely want to investigate. And you can go to apporchard.epic.com and find out information about this integration today. What I want to say, just a little teaser, right? We, if you are listening to today's call and you don't have Epic, I would just like to say that OpenText is looking at for the future release, like this year's release, we'll be adding all scripts to our list of certified integrations, and then we'll be adding Cerner and things like Meditech in the next release after that. So we're going to continue to expand our integration capabilities, direct integration capabilities with these vendors, just based on folks that have both products and are looking for that level of integration. So we will continue to do this in the future releases and upcoming releases as well. So if you go to the next slide, we can continue to talk, or we can begin to talk about a new feature, a new functionality called RightFax Workflows. And so there's a lot going on this slide. So I'd like to just kind of let's focus attention here on the left, and then I'll talk a little bit about the diagram on the right-hand side. So ultimately, in every customer that we have talked to, they have informed us that one of the issues with fax is the sheer volume of inbound fax and not having a great way to handle that volume from within the RightFax server, right? The server does great. It sends and receives faxes all the time, but I have so much inbound fax, and it has to manually be moved from person to person, and each person has to have knowledge of the person that it's going to after them, right? So if Jeffrey and I were part of an inbound patient referral, if you will, I would receive the fax to my fax number, and then I would have to know that Jeffrey was the next step of this inbound patient referral. And let's say, just for sake of argument, that Julia here was the exception handler, right? In other words, a patient referral comes in, but I can't handle this. This needs to go up to my boss for approval, right? And I would have to know Jeffrey and Julia, and I'd have to know their fax numbers by name. And it just gets complicated, right? I mean, this is one fax. Imagine if I'm processing hundreds, if not thousands of referrals in a month, right? This becomes a very painstaking process. And so really what we wanted to do with RightFax Workflows is revolutionize inbound fax to help improve business process and decrease time to revenue on any inbound fax process. And that's what RightFax Workflows aims to do. So RightFax Workflows in and of itself provides some level of functionality in terms of branching, exception handling, rejections, SLAs. So in other words, maybe I have to process every referral within a day. RightFax Workflows will allow you to set that SLA and then trigger alerts and notifications if that SLA is in danger of being missed, right? So, and lastly, metadata viewing, which I'll show in the next couple of slides. So RightFax Workflows really, at a global level, what it is trying to do is transform fax images, which of course are just TIFF images, right? TIFF files, which are pictures, black and white, 200 by 200 resolution. We're trying to transform those files into structured files, semi-structured data with actionable data. That's what RightFax Workflows aims to do. We also want to increase document security with defined visibility according to the user's role in the business. So if we take my previous example with myself, Jeffrey, and Julia, I don't have to know Jeffrey and I don't have to know Julia, and I don't have to maybe accidentally send this off to a John Pater, right? He doesn't need to see this, right? This is healthcare information. This is, PCI data from financial services. I need to make sure that data goes to the right place. When a RightFax Workflows workflow path gets set up, everyone has role-based access to the fax, and I don't have to know. I just know that my part is done and it's ready to go to the next stage. And that's why we think that the increased document security with defined visibility based on role-based access is going to be a very nice change for folks who are used to just handling inbound faxes based on their fax number. RightFax Workflows will allow you to optimize processes and automatically route documents to the right team members based on your standard operating procedures, right? So thinking back to the example I gave earlier, step one is that the document comes into patient referral, but step two goes to Jeffrey, the referral manager. Now I don't have to know that Jeffrey's a referral manager. It just passes along to referral manager. And let's say Jeffrey moves on from the role and we have a new person in there, right? He'll just have the role of referral manager and he'll be able to access and take the necessary action on that document. The really, really nice thing about RightFax Workflows versus potentially other workflow options that you may have looked for in the past is it's code free and it's professional services free. This is all self-service, intuitive setup. It lets certain individuals in the business based on permission, right? So in other words, it might start with your IT, it might start with a line of business manager, but they can create that workflow path. So you can design the path that all the fax data takes through the process using an easy visual workflow configurator. And so now if we look at kind of that right-hand side, this kind of attempts to put it all together, right? So the top here is that patient referral form coming in as an inbound fax. It comes in to a workflow, right? And that workflow is a referral process. there's an option to hand the first step off to an exception handler, and maybe that exception handler is a manager. Maybe that exception handler is someone who just can read through documents and understands more than just the referral manager. And that exception process can become a cyclical one where it goes back to the referral manager for further processing down the line. So either way, once exception handler or referral manager are done with it, and these are not set in stone. These are just an example, right? A referral manager, exception handler, just names I made up for sake of argument. It passes through them, it moves on. And all of that fax data and XML data has now become semi-structured data. And maybe that can move it now directly into an appointment scheduler, right, within, right? And so you're trying to schedule an X-ray for, a broken bone, right, that you got referred from a hospital or somewhere along those lines. And ultimately, we want to push that out into a network folder, into a system like maybe a Highland OnBase or an Epic Health Systems, and then ultimately into a system of record. So with the next slide, I want to show a little bit about what that might look like in RightFax. And I've got a couple of slides just to kind of help you visualize this a little bit more. So if we can see the next slide real quick. This is RightFax Workflows and what it looks like inside of inside of our fax client, right? So ultimately, this is a look at our web client here, but I've zoomed in here to show you that we can now create workflow metadata columns that will be viewable inside of our fax client, right? And so this is information that's been captured, right, by let's say in my example, the referral manager, and entered into the fax, right? So I know that this fax deals with Eric Anderson, patient first name, patient last name, with a date of birth of 1/1/99 and an MRN of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But what's really nice is that data that used to just be an image on the fax is now viewable, searchable, indexable, sortable, filterable within the fax client. So if I know I'm looking for a specific MRN, I can just type that into the search window and just get that result for that fax, right? I don't have to say, well, I know it came in on Thursday 2/11 at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're searching through your fax list trying to find the right fax, right? This one will allow you to get right to what you need. The workflows capability also has checkout capability. So that's what we're showing on this top line with the purple arrow here. There's essentially a dot that lets you know that a specific document is checked out and being worked by a specific user in the system. And so you don't duplicate effort on processing inbound fax. So on the next slide, we show just a little bit about where this might end up. So on the left-hand side, this is a picture of the fax history. And what we're showing is essentially a couple of things here. Right, so the history kind of goes, if we're reading it from the top down here, the fax was received, and then in that first bubble, the second bubble shows that the referral workflow was started. The next bubble shows that the user that performed a workflow action, right, and the data, the types of data that were captured with that fax, right? So in this case, I could expand this and show that patient first name was entered as Eric, last name Anderson, date of birth, etc. And then I needed an exception, right? And so that was referred from the exception, and then the referral exception was started and then completed, right? And that's the visual history, which is another new feature that was added in 20.2. But it lets you really quickly visualize where the fax has gone through the system and what users have touched it along the way. On the right-hand side is the ultimate output of a RightFax workflows file, right? So what we can do is now, with these named value pairs that we create by pulling data off of the fax, we can now very easily bring this into a system like an Epic or a Highland or what have you, with these structured bits of data already attached to the fax. And so this is ultimately where we see the most value. And again, it's something that once you get your hands on RightFax 20.2 and start experimenting and building your own workflows, you can start to see the value quite quickly on being able to categorize and build structure around all these inbound faxes and not worry about, well, all these inbound faxes go to all these different users. Right now, you can have workflows around it. And so it really does aim to be quite a revolutionary change to inbound fax that we really hope folks will find some value in. And so next slide, please. The workflows capability has SLA tracking. So as you create a workflow, what you do is you designate a period of time in which these faxes that enter this workflow need to be processed within. So let's just say that a fax needs to be processed within an hour. What you will see here then is the capability to set up when would you like to be reminded and when would you like to be warned, right? That a fax is about to expire or a fax is about to go past its SLA on your organization's ability to process. So you can set up reminders and warnings to go to email or to SMS. And you can set the threshold, right? In this case, I said, hey, remind me in 5 minutes via SMS and then warn me in 3 minutes in SMS, right? And so this is just a picture from my iPhone of the system notifying me that a fax must be processed or I'm at risk of missing an SLA. So you can set up what users would be notified. Maybe this goes to a manager, right? Or maybe it goes directly to the employee. But if you're working on such tight SLAs, right, it's going to go to the right person to let you know action needs to be taken, and you'll set those thresholds at essentially time intervals that make the most sense for your business. And I think that's about it for workflows. We're making some pretty exciting changes to RightFax Workflows. We're creating essentially a new component called RightFax Intelligent Workflows that automates workflows almost completely and allows you to essentially create unattended workflow processes where the RightFax system will automatically capture, automatically categorize, and automatically move faxes through workflows based on your business requirements. Once again, the real value is that it's code-free and completely self-service. So each organization and each user of RightFax, at a high level, will be able to create workflows and automate them in the next release coming this April. So next slide, please. We've also made some improvements to our email gateway, and email gateways are a very important part of RightFax because it allows you to control the distribution of RightFax email traffic across your network. And so what we've done is allowed RightFax administrators to assign specific RightFax gateways to specific RightFax groups for processing. And if you are thinking about this and how you might use this, it's all about the volume, and I kind of illustrated it on the next slide. So if we want to show the next slide real quick, imagine, if you will, you have a high volume email server and a low volume email server, and you want to make sure that you send the high volume of fax messages perhaps to the appropriate email server. Whether that's the high volume or the low volume really is up to you. I'm just pointing this out as an example. Right, if you have an email server that you know is going to be jam-packed with emails, right, not even faxes, right, you may want to ensure that your high volume group sends out your low volume email server so that you don't impact production on that high volume email server, or vice versa, right? But it's about control and being able to do your own traffic management for any faxes that start via email, and that's what that's about, and completely capable in the newest release. So next slide, and we'll talk about some kind of the next bit, user experience, and some changes we've made to our clients, both the thick client or what we call the Windows client fax util, as well as our web client, which is our non-installed version, low footprint, low IT management version of fax util web, and some improvements we've made there. We'll also talk about our Outlook client and some revitalization and changes we've done there, as well as simplified management of all of our fax-enabled connectors for things like multifunction devices and the like. So next slide. I want to talk about the new fax user experience for web and desktop applications. And specifically, I'm talking about when a user is using a RightFax client and hits that new fax button. In other words, I have a document, I want to send it, and I want to make sure it gets to the right place. So organizations, just like with their inbound fax volume, they aim to streamline and simplify the outbound fax process as well. And so we completely redesigned new fax to ensure that all data needed to send a fax was visible at all times. Too often we heard from our customers that they would start filling out a new fax, right? Enter in the fax information, add their cover sheet notes, and then they'd switch off to another tab or something within the fax application and fill out some information, add attachments, that sort of thing. And then they'd be like, wait a minute, who am I sending this to? And then they'd have to go back and 1 or 2, 3, 4 clicks and say, oh, there's the data that I want. So now everything stays visible. And so this one's kind of hard to see, and I don't know what type of device you might be viewing the visuals on this webinar, but you'll notice there's a new fax window in the center of this monitor. And there's some blue kind of elongated rectangles on the right-hand side of that. Those are just a functionality that kind of the industry refers to as accordions. And ultimately they expand and contract based on when you click the arrow. But ultimately everything on that left-hand side, which is your to name, your to fax number, your attachment list, your cover sheet notes, all of that information stays there the whole time. So you can't ever forget who you're sending this to, what documents you're sending. It's all right there in your face. You can't make it go away unless you click cancel. And so it's making sure that inbound fax can go as quickly as possible. So we think it's going to reduce the effort needed to create, track, and manage fax documents and decrease the need for any training or documentation or internal support. Ultimately, we don't want users to get lost as they use the product. And sometimes we've got some feedback on it that our old new fax allowed those types of situations to happen. And so that's why we've made this change. So next slide, please. This is once again our FaxUtil web, and this functionality that I've showed in the web is also available in the thick client FaxUtil. It's just the web is a little snazzier, a little fresher looking, so that's what I've used in this presentation. But ultimately, RightFax now includes the capability to preview your faxes without actually opening them in the viewer. So you can turn on preview. It's much like the reading pane, if you will, if you use Outlook, where you click an email and then it shows up. This is click a fax in the list, and you can scroll through that entire fax without ever actually opening it. So it could just save some time as you're looking for the right document and the right fax as you go through your fax list. Next slide, please. This is just a closer look at what I was showing earlier. So if you couldn't see it before, those elongated rectangles I was talking about, right? You can kind of see what those look like now, right? So if you want to make changes to your cover sheet, make comments for your records, modify your from information, that sort of thing, it's all available. And the next slide after this won't go there just yet. We'll show you. Sorry about that, Jeffrey. The only thing I wanted to list, really kind of point out here is on the left-hand side under the attachments list, you can see all of the attachments that you have on that document, and you can scroll through this list, move them up or down, and they'll essentially be rasterized and converted to fax image based on the order they're attached in the document. But yeah, on the next slide, it shows what all those rectangles expand to be. So all these things that used to have their own tabs and kind of be hidden in the new fax window are now just under this thing we call accordions, but it allows you to make those changes while still seeing the context of the fax that you're trying to send. So next slide, please. One other thing that we added was complete drag and drop capability. So you can open up a new fax from either FaxUtil or FaxUtil Web, open up a folder in Windows, and just drag and drop a file directly to the new fax interface. And that's just kind of what it looks like. The box turns green, you can let go, drop it in, and voila. Your document has just been attached to the fax. And a lot of folks have told us this is a real easy and intuitive way to send fax, right? A lot of our customers still use functionality that we call print to fax, which you may or may not be familiar with, which is just opening a document and printing it. And we've heard that some customers find this drag and drop method is even easier than that. And so it's definitely something you could check out and try out in RightFax 20.2. Next slide, please. We've also introduced as a lot of web browsers have done, a dark mode. So it darkens the screen, and a lot of folks like a dark mode because it can reduce eye strain. If you're looking at a bright white screen all day and a list of faxes, dark mode can kind of ease that strain. And so this improves visibility for users with low vision or those who are sensitive to bright light. And that's all that is. It's just an option that's available in a drop-down menu. You can just click your username and say dark mode on, and it's easy as that. Next slide, please. And as I briefly alluded to, we do have a full Outlook client. So for those of you who don't even want to use the RightFax FaxUtil or FaxUtil Web, but do all of your work through Outlook, we have a client for that. It's a simple add-on to Exchange and to Outlook, and it will allow you to have a RightFax button directly from your Outlook ribbon or toolbar. And it enhances RightFax by supporting Outlook directly. So you'll notice that the information that's in new fax is also available in Outlook as well. So you can address a fax. You don't have to know the complex IETF addressing or anything like that. You could just say, I know this is going to Eric. I know his fax number is 555-1212. I enter that into the information, and then the add-in handles the rest. So it simplifies the fax user experience within a familiar Outlook interface. And ultimately, it provides a significant performance improvement over kind of the old method of a foreign connector type of a delivery. All right, next slide, please. The next section is a redesign for how we process connections to external devices, such as multifunction devices, and external archive tools, such as our XML generator, our RightFax Vault tool. It's also where we configure the integration to Epic that I mentioned earlier. And basically, you just provide in all the endpoint information to the Epic environment. But ultimately, we redesigned this because we used to do this through a tool called the External Document Connector. And that was a piece of functionality from OpenText and from RightFax that just looked different than RightFax. It had its own kind of data flow, it had its own processing, and a lot of times customers, they didn't appreciate having to kind of configure and administrate two different systems. And so we pulled all of this in directly into core RightFax, so you can do this from either EFM or web EFM and configure all of your external connections. So this does replace what has been known as EDC for a number of years, with a completely web-based administrative configuration. And it does simplify all of these post-fax processing integrations, right? Integrations into Epic or integrations into an MFP. And whether you want to call that pre or post fax processing, whether it's an MFP scanning and processing the job before it becomes a fax, or whether it's an archival document being moved into XML generator as a XML data and a TIFF image, right? It's all an experience that you're handling that document after or before it was a fax, and that's this new connector capability. So moving on to the next slide, please. We've made some updates to our web API, as well as relaunched our COM API, and then we've made some improvements to our web reporter. So next slide, I just want to talk about the web API for just a moment. We have now kind of standardized on the RightFax web API as being our API of the future. A lot of the screenshots that I've shown you today are from our RightFax FaxUtil Web and our RightFax Web Admin. Both of those tools were written on the Web API. So all of the functionality in RightFax is completely available via the Web API. So we believe and we would say that the Web API is a full-featured, fully functional API that you can use to integrate your product with RightFax. So that was a very comprehensive update to that API that existed in say some of our previous versions. But ultimately, Web API is RESTful. It's not SOAP-based. It is a RESTful web API, which is a very current way that folks are integrating software systems together. And it's going to extend faxing capabilities to your custom web development tools and potentially any folks that would like to have that level of custom integration into RightFax and just cater it directly to what they need. And ultimately, it could help strengthen your own brand recognition by customizing the look and feel of your faxing application. I did mention, it doesn't say it in the slide, but for those of you who have an existing integration via the COM API, you may or may not have heard that OpenText had ended the COM API. And I just would like to inform you that the COM API is still there. It has been launched and is available for download. So if you have an integration or you yourself are an integrator and you use the COM API, that integration is still going to work and it will continue to work for the foreseeable future. However, a lot of the new functionality that we add to the product, so things like workflows, things like the certified Epic integration and the Allscripts integration that I teased coming up, right? Those things will not be completely controllable via the COM API, and you would need to look to updating your integration, or if you're starting fresh on the web API. But the COM API is there, so let me just assure you that it's not going away, and it will be completely compatible with whatever version of RightFax that you would like to be on. Just note that some of the new functionality may not be possible to address via the COM API. So next slide is a little bit about Web Reporter, and this is just the capability to run all of the reports that you used to be able to do with Enterprise Fax Reporter, which was essentially a Windows-based tool. You now have the capability to do that within our web-based tools. So it allows administrators to easily detect any sort of thing that they want to report on. So all of our, let's call it 65 reports that are available in RightFax are also available via the Web Reporter tool. And ultimately, we think this is going to simplify access and accessibility to reporting capabilities in RightFax. And with that, we'll go to the next slide here. And just talk about last little note from me, and then we can kind of turn it back over to Jeffrey and kind of enter into a little bit of a final wrap up and Q&A. I want to talk about enhanced installation security. So next slide, I'll detail what that might mean. So client applications ultimately need to be secure. We're dealing with very confidential information a lot of times in fax. And so we want to ensure that if you have a malicious actor behind your firewall, right, an employee who isn't up to the best good, right? I mean, obviously your first stage of defense is firewall and all of your IT security. But within your network, we want to ensure that data is safe. So any connection that's made from a client, whether that client is a backend application or that client is an MFP or that client is one of our clients, FaxUtil Web, we want to make sure that there's a secure connection made. So we have in the past recommended that folks go out and get their own certificate and set that all up. But that's sometimes, depending on the maturity of the organization and the size of the organization, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So what we've done is we've created essentially a self-signed certificate. With those in the security world know that's not the most secure thing. Again, a certificate from a real certificate provider is your best option, but we will by default install RightFax with a self-signed certificate and ensure that all traffic is encrypted between client and server with TLS and HTTPS. So it's all secure by default. That can be immediately replaced via this screen on the right-hand side with your own certificate management. And if you want to rotate keys and all that sort of thing, that can be done. But all RightFax user and administrative accounts are password secured by default now as well, right? So there is no blank password. You'll have a password identified during the install, and that will ensure that you don't have any accounts just left open without passwords by default. And so ultimately, we believe this is going to enhance the already strong security of RightFax, ensure organizations can meet their security mandates, and ultimately the end goal here is that OpenText together with HMB provide a secure private information exchange for all your faxing needs. And I think with that, I toss it over to just a little bit about on the next slide, just some content that'll be available from this slide deck. And so there's a few links here that you'll be able to click and link, and these are OpenText resources that just kind of give some information, whether that's visual in the form of a video or a write-up in the form of a blog, and just some technical information about the RightFax product if you'd like to learn more. And with that, I will say thank you very much for your time today. Jeffrey, I'll turn it back over to you. And I don't know if any questions came in, but happy to kind of walk through any questions that anybody has based on this content or anything regarding the future of OpenText.
I'm checking to make sure that I've got my mic unmuted so that everyone doesn't know I'm an idiot. Let's see, there's a couple general questions that talk about the direction of RightFax with respect to the cloud. So, general comments. There was a specific question that says, is this version intuitive enough to know where a partial fax failed so it restarts at that point?
Okay. Well, let's start with the general question, and then I'll dive into that partial fax question. So, as a general question about what is the kind of the future of RightFax with respect to the cloud, I'll just kind of give as much information I can without diving too deep into the weeds. So, OpenText is a company that has quite a few faxing options. I mean, we would see ourselves, and the analysts see ourselves, as a clear leader in the fax space globally. We have fully cloud-based solutions in the form of a product called Fax to Mail, which is a product that is separate from RightFax. We have a product called Xmedius Fax, which is a product that is separate from RightFax. But strictly speaking, on the RightFax level, RightFax has throughout the years, its 30-year history, has been a fully on-premises based product. And we have a very large number of installations worldwide of that product. And that makes up the vast majority of our user install base, right? RightFax, however, we want to make sure that the product is current and meeting current business needs. And so we have created a cloud module of sorts, if you will, for RightFax that we call RightFax Connect. And so that is, if you haven't heard of this before, at a very, very high level, what it is the capability to replace your channels and your fax over IP, your SR140, your TR1034, your Gamma Link cards, essentially any of the telephone lines you may have devoted to your RightFax server, any of that infrastructure, right? Whether it's a Cisco gateway, maybe an Avaya gateway, or even an OpenText media gateway that you may have purchased, and replace all of that with a connection to the OpenText cloud. And we would then essentially handle all fax processing, both inbound and outbound, on your behalf, and all the while change nothing about what the user experience is, right? I mean, you'll still use the Fax Shield tools, you'd still have access to every single thing I talked about in today's webinar, but you don't have the headache and the hassle or the payment of dealing with your on-premises telephony. So OpenText RightFax has looked to kind of catch that cloud wave, if you will, and it's an option that's available to customers, and as CIOs move more and more towards wanting to cloud enable their operations. RightFax Connect is a great way to take that first step into leveraging the benefits of the cloud. For folks that still like RightFax and want to dive in even deeper to those cloud waters, if you will, we have RightFax Managed Services, which is the capability to put an entire RightFax environment in the OpenText cloud, and then you just have access to that, and we maintain it and manage it on your behalf. But your users just continue to have the same great experience that they've grown accustomed to over the years of using RightFax. But I mean, in terms of product direction and roadmap, I mentioned all the products that OpenText has relative to fax as a way to illustrate that OpenText believes strongly in the future of fax, and we have a lot of different options all with strong roadmaps and strong product development and investment, just based on what our customers want to do, right? So we do have a fraction of our total population of RightFax installations that have moved to a RightFax Connect or a RightFax Managed Services solution. But again, the lion's share, vast majority of our customers are still on-premises customers with on-premises telephony, and we are going to be there for those customers for a very long time. And we will continue to develop new features for RightFax every single year. In April we will have a release of RightFax, and we will ensure that our customers have a version of RightFax that fits their needs for the very much foreseeable future.
Outstanding.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Sorry, and then I just wanted to address the partially transmitted fax question. And absolutely, we do have capabilities within RightFax to resume a transmission from the point of failure, ensuring that that you aren't utilizing more fax transmission time or fax transmission pages than you need to, right? So if a fax partially fails halfway through, we'll pick it up right from that failure, and we won't transmit the pages that were successfully transmitted. That is an option within RightFax. There's quite a few little options relative to how the RightFax server will handle transmissions. Certainly the HMB folks, as well as the OpenText support staff, can help walk you through some of those settings if you have very specific questions. But we can absolutely have the capability to handle those resumes from the point of failure and not just repeating the entire fax over again.
Terrific. And as Mike was going to mention, HMB is capable of sitting down with your team, discussing fax features, the latest capability, doing upgrade planning, etc. There was a question related to that talked about, when did the version numbers change from version 10.6 to 20.2? Question mark.
I promised you I'd talk about that, didn't I? I totally forgot to do that. So right about, and I'll try to go through this as quick as possible, but in 2016, OpenText, after, I don't know how much the attendees know about OpenText as a company, but just to give you a little background, OpenText is a company that does grow quite a bit by just acquiring new companies. And software companies, obviously. You may have heard in the news that we acquired Carbonite and WebRoot, which hit close to home for me. I got a call from my dad the other day who said, "Hey, I just got a call from OpenText. They wanted to renew my Carbonite subscription." I said, "Yeah, we did that." And most people at that, kind of that consumer to consumer level hadn't heard the name OpenText before, but we do grow via acquisition. So back in 2016, Mark Berenche, our CEO, he started an initiative where he wanted all products within OpenText to have the same versioning. So for any customers that had come via acquisition to OpenText as a technology provider, he wanted them to understand that if they looked at the entire OpenText portfolio, what version of a product might be compatible or current versus the version that they have today, right? So what he decided and created was an initiative called the 16 edition, right? So at that time, RightFax was version 10.6. And so we were working on RightFax 11, if you will, when this version 16 initiative came about. So all products across the board at OpenText got their version set to version 16. And so that's why there was a jump between 10.6 and 16. Well, 16, the release cycle was based quarterly. So depending on when you, we do release this quarterly, but there was an EP that if you released in a specific quarter, you had a specific EP. And so we had 16 EP2, then EP4, and then things changed slightly. We moved to an EP6, and then that's the point when OpenText changed again. We got to the year 2020. Our CEO decided that the versioning should now be 20. And to make sure that all products had the same versioning scheme, right? Essentially, his second attempt at creating a unified versioning scheme across our vast portfolio of products. The release schedule is now calendar year dot calendar quarter of release. And that's how it will be until a new change at OpenText. So RightFax 20.2 released in April, which is the second quarter of the year. So that's how it gets its versioning. And that's how you may be a customer sitting on version 10.5 and looking at this presentation today saying, how did I miss 10 versions? You didn't. It's just OpenText is continuing to kind of adjust the knobs of what we want as a unified portfolio across all products and services within the much larger scope of OpenText as a company than just the RightFax product. So that's the versioning.
And as I mentioned early on, we are going to try to have an encore performance after version 20.2. Which is anticipated in an April type of time frame. So please stay tuned for that. And without further delays, I am right at the top of the hour. So I think we'll call it a job well done and a good day. I will make copies of this presentation available to all who participated. Thank you for your day.